All right, everybody, we are back. God, that sounded weird. This is Sick Talks number 78 with Kareem Rahma. Kareem is a creative force across many platforms and somebody that I have admired for a long time and who I've known for even longer than I've admired him. He was an early settler in the digital marketing era at Vice, and took a lot of those lessons, I would say, and has applied them into success that has multiplied his aura across many different formats. So anyway, Kareem, welcome. Very pleased to have you here.
What's up, my guy? What's going on, my guy?
I have to say, we're here for this special 30-minute conversation, which is sort of, in honor of the launch of The Last Stop, your new talk show, which we'll get into. But you, the thing that I like about this is that, as people will see in the talk show, you've gone from, a set of subway seats to a real talk show set. And for this podcast, you've upgraded your recording studio to some sort of, I'm sure that's a Bugatti or something that.
I rented this car. I actually flew to LA and rented a car so that I could look like I was like successful and busy. So I'm in LA right now.
Interesting. The weather
Not
in LA
actually,
looks
though. Like only in this digital room. I'm in LA. I'm a successful Hollywood producer. I'm driving. I'm moving. I'm in a self-driving Tesla, and we're having a meeting.
Okay. So I want to then get right into it. The ostensible purpose of these conversations is to act as a companion to SIC Weekly, my newsletter, the sort of digest of developments that I put out every week. And one of the stories, which is not one spoiler that I shared with you, but was one about how the air in LA is actually toxic. What I wonder about is, have you taken any precautions for your health now that you're out there?
Yeah, I just undid all of my surgeries, my plastic surgeries, because what's happening is that the heat is melting people's faces. And that is that's burning a hole in the ozone layer, which is in turn making the air toxic and polluted.
I thought you were going to say it was burning a hole in the Ozempic layer, but I tend to be more pun oriented than yeah, I know. What's dad jokes? It's my birthday today, so I'm allowed to make
happy
dad
birthday,
jokes.
Father!
Thank you.
Look at us. Look, I'm also July baby, Cancer next week.
Oh, is that right? Okay, cool.
And I'm also a father.
I know that, and which is why one of the conversations, or one of the articles that we should talk about, was from my favorite right of center outlet, the American Enterprise Institute, about how Gen X is turning Republican. I wonder, since you've had the baby or since your partner had the baby and you've become a father, have you found yourself leaning right in any sort of demonstrable way? Do you, for instance, you insist on pizza with pepperoni rather than with basil?
I'm 100%. I work for the Donald Trump campaign. That is my new gig.
I know for a fact that isn't true because I went to college with Don Jr. and he told me.
How would he know, dude? I'm above that pay grade. No,
fair.
In all seriousness, the older somebody told me this once when I was a young lib, and they were like, you'll grow to be more conservative. And I said, that's absolutely impossible. And I think I identify more with Gen X, not in terms of them being Republican, but I'm apathetic and detached in a non-irony pilled way. Like, you've got like the irony pilled leftists that have gone so far left that they've ended up right.
Yeah.
That's like a more of a millennial movement, right?
This is sort of red square, dime square, the typologies that we've thought over the last couple of years.
Yeah, that they're like, they started left and they went so far left that they end up being right. I'm not even political in nature. Like, I don't know there's probably a word for it, right? Like, I don't know what the word is. And then there is, the regular old like middle American. I just want to pretend that everything's good. The Joe
Yep.
Biden, the Joe Biden libs, the Joe Biden Democrats, and the more like this whole circus has just made me go, you know what? I don't really care, and it's probably unpopular with a lot of people that I hang out with that I don't care. It's probably not good at all. I probably shouldn't even be saying it, but I'm apathetic. I have a nihilistic attitude, and here's where it is. Like, if you want me to be a Democrat, give me someone as good as Trump.
Yeah.
Like that I can
Yeah.
rally, like that I'm like excited to vote for, because I'm so sick of like I'm sick of like I'm sick of playing defense. I'm trying to
Right.
like win offense. I want to throw a touchdown. Like, let's get a fucking real guy in there that people are excited about. So,
Well, yeah,
yeah,
or real woman, or real they them, or whatever the situation is, but just like somebody, yeah,
I
who
was
can
using
galvanize.
guy as a gender neutral term.
No, I mean I have Gen Zs upstairs, and they've signed off on that. So
That guy is gender neutral.
for them, yeah, for them,
Okay,
I
that's
think
good.
they're, yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah, that's
fine.
what I mean.
So okay, cool. We agree
like
again.
honestly, if Kamala Harris ran against Trump, I would be like, I'm all in on Kamala. Sure, like let's do it. I'm not gonna be like the most excited person in the world.
Yeah,
That would be like a
yeah.
Bernie Sanders, who's like, dedicated his life and career to this one thing, which is awesome. But yeah, I don't know. I can see why Gen Xers have become Republicans. I actually understand. I understand the appeal of being a Republican. I really do.
Sure. Well,
But I'm
look,
not. I don't identify as such.
I think there's it's there's that famous truism, if you're not a liberal when you're young, you have no heart, and if you're not a conservative when you're old, you have no brain.
Oh, I never heard that before. That's funny.
Yeah, that's a pretty famous truism, but
That's
it's
awesome.
essentially what it essentially means is that as you get older, you are supposed to approach issues of life more pragmatically or with greater experience, and conservatism is a philosophy based on Lindy, right? What has worked in the past will continue to work in the future, and what is new is subject to further testing. But I that I sent the article somewhat in jest because I know, for instance, that you are not suddenly turning on a dime and becoming anti everything that the left might stand for. But what I did think was an interesting question to think about is, you've just become a dad. From a life stage change perspective, you start thinking about like, okay, I actually do have to reassess everything.
It's more like I want some goddamn peace and quiet. That's how I feel. My Karina keeps asking me. That's my wife / girlfriend, depending on who's asking. She's like, "What do you want for your birthday?" I'm like, "I want some goddamn peace and quiet. That's all I want." And that also is in just like not only in my home, but everywhere. I just want some goddamn peace and quiet. And Trump is not goddamn peace and quiet. Joe Biden is not goddamn peace and quiet.
No.
So I'm looking for the peace and quiet option.
I mean, the peace and quiet party as a third alternative for 2025 and beyond may be not bad, right? Like if you think about it from a purely pragmatic standpoint, like the markets like it when things are calm. The people like it when things are calm. Kareem can finally sleep. When it's calm.
Like, who would run that? I think it would be like I don't want to vote for Jeb Bush, but he could run the peace and quiet party.
We can find better candidates than Jeb Bush.
He's the
first
thought. He's the first thought. He's the first thought.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's the bore you to death. But okay, so here's my
Please clap.
my
that was awesome.
Here's my rejoinder to your peace and quiet. You're jonesing for peace and quiet. You just launched a talk show, which is based on the virality and success of another show, which is part of a stable of other shows, which is part of a world of influencer work all of which I see as a very effective sort of flywheel for driving attention and engagement and audience and so on and so forth, but all of which leads to more. And the very sage Eric Lavoie once told me, email is like a plant. The more you water it, the more it grows, right?
Wow.
Clearly the same thing could be said for content. So what's the thought behind launching a talk show?
I didn't want to email for a living.
Okay.
That's
fair
it.
enough. Okay, good answer.
I didn't want to email for a living anymore, but I do agree with his sentiment. It's like the I like long form content. I prefer it, right? I like to sit down. Like for me, like sitting down and watching what I call long form content is a movie or like a TV show. I love that. I relish in TV time at night and just cracking open an ice cold non-alcoholic beer and just watching like 2 episodes of The Bear, and I don't have my phone on me, and it's amazing. But so hard to get into the long form business for so many factors. One, money. I think that's the biggest one. Two,
Sure.
time, right?
Yep.
Scalability. From a business perspective, it's very hard to launch a long form project. And it's a lot easier to launch a short form project because, we did 5 episodes of The Last Stop, and it's taken months to produce, pre-produce, shoot it, edit it, sound mix it. Months, right? I could get 5 episodes in Subway Takes in one day. So for me, it was like I knew when Subway Takes was launched that it could be more than one thing. In the words of the great Ben Dietz, that it was a super format. But I didn't.
Boy, here we go.
I wanted to build I wanted to build the plane while I was flying it, and also build it backwards, right? Like most people are like,
build it backwards. Okay.
Build it backward. Most people are like, we'll start with the long form and then we'll make social cut downs.
Yeah.
To promote the long form. And I said, what if it's just like the show is short? Like, we've done 145 episodes of Subway Takes.
Wow.
And
I only just found a take that I could bring to you just recently.
Well, you're gonna have to pitch it on the show, on your show.
Oh, okay, I will. But anyway, finish that thought first, and then I'll come to you with my take.
It's like building it backwards by being like, what if you take all of the stress and pressure, the P&A of having to promote the long form. P&A is promotion and advertising in the movie business.
Interesting. Okay. Here I am. I've reached my 49th birthday, and I had never heard of P&A before.
Look at that. You're 49. I'm 38. I'm teaching the guy stuff.
I mean, honestly, a lifelong learner is what I am. Really.
I don't know why the movie business calls it P&A, but that's the P&A line item is promotion and advertising.
Okay.
And so, I was like, if we get rid of that, if we get rid of saying, watch the long form on XYZ, like, go make sure this is a social cut down from XY, like, and just be like, this is the show. The show is short. There are so many podcasts, there are so many talk shows, but there are not many 60 to 90 second talk shows or podcasts, which is what Subway Takes is. Like at first I called it a 1 minute podcast. That was the concept, is it's a 1 minute podcast. And for a long time, and I haven't done it yet because I'm a little lazy, but I was like, I'm going to upload all of them to Spotify, which I probably will do one day, and Apple. Like as the 1 minute episodes. Those will be.
If you need an intern for that, I have a candidate, but we'll talk about that later too.
Is he going to want to sit at his computer and ingest content?
Yes. But anyway, we can talk about that off mic.
But yeah, that was the idea, is that if you like focus on the format, which I don't even call it a micro. I was about to say the micro format, but no, the format is Subway Takes. But I don't have to promote anything or talk about anything except for Subway Takes. And then when the time is right, we can do whatever we want if it's successful, and it was successful. And there are steps to this, right? Like me and my team, Andrew Quo, Anthony, Willem, so many people, especially Andrew though. We went because he's my business partner. We went all the way where we're like, let's skip the long form podcast and go all the way to talk show, right? So because there is a logical middle step, which is like Subway Takes, a long form podcast, and then a talk show. We said let's build it. Let's build it from both sides and go.
Yeah, okay, now I understand. Yeah, well, and it's funny. I mean, I appreciate the conversation we had about super format sinking into the level that you can quote it back to me. But that's kind of the thesis of it in the first place, which is that all of these form factors are possible. It's a question of what is the order in which they get deployed to be most useful, most maximally effective, most fun.
I think you need a hit, right? Like
Yeah,
once,
sure.
like it's the same as like the first Spider-Man movie that like unlocked Marvel, right? It's
Yeah,
like if that movie would have been a flop, I don't think we would have had Marvel, like the whole Marvel universe and the DC universe. I think it would probably not happened in the way that it
yeah,
did. They might have tried again, but like they were like that was a hit, and then they were like, "Cool, let's exploit the whole thing." And
yeah,
so I think that's like you need a hit. So if it's a long form hit, that's great. If it's a short form hit, that's great. If it's a mid form hit, that's great. If it's a podcast, that's great. But you need to. I think you do need to focus on this one thing, and I think the viral nature of TikTok and Instagram versus the viral nature of other platforms, like it's just easier to get a read on what the people want on Instagram and TikTok, in my opinion.
yeah,
Like I think
yeah.
it's easier to understand what the audience wants and what the audience is there for. Whereas I think on YouTube, for example, it's a lot more difficult to know what
Sure.
people want, you know?
Well, so your conclusion on that was essentially the audience wants Jerry Saltz, and so I'm gonna get him on the podcast, or on the, excuse me, I said podcast, I meant show. I'm getting him on the talk show. Fair?
Yeah.
The
No, I
audience
mean,
wants Jerry Saltz.
yeah, he's the audience definitely wants Jerry Salt. I mean, the audience wants a discussion about intergenerational warfare. The battle of millennials versus Gen Xers versus Gen Zs versus who am I forgetting? Boomers. But
Not to mention Gen Alphas.
I think the main battle is amongst boomers and millennials because it's been happening for so long. It's like millennials were handed the world and we're like, we blame the boomers, and we've always blamed the boomers for everything that's gone wrong. Whereas boomers have kind of just been like, it's your problem. Like, we're not going to clean up our shit. And then Gen X was kind of detached and doing whatever. And I think Gen Z's blame boomers too, because they're not blaming millennials or Gen X.
I mean, I think it's interesting that you should say, and I think blame is a really important word in the discussion, because I don't know. Certainly, when I was in my teens and 20s, we railed against and were angry about things that decisions that were made for us that were irresponsible. But I don't think we thought about it from the standpoint of like, we blame you for this, and it's out of our control. It's more like, okay, this sucks, we disagree with it, time to go address it and fix it. And I do think, for better for worse, one of the reasons that the millennial generation gets so much shit is because there is this sort of passivity to the complaint, that I think it's starting to change with Gen Z. And of course there are always outliers like you who demonstrate like you can just get up and do stuff, and lo and behold, it might be interesting, right?
Pull myself up by my bootstraps.
Yeah, well, I love the bootstraps trope in the show discussion was funny to me, and as a real like Horatio Alger guy, I love the old bootstraps analogy. But
I don't think it's a generation. I think it comes down to people, honestly.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, dude, if you want to do something, and I hate sounding like a motivational speaker, but I think that the whole thing is like, especially in Hollywood, it does not matter anymore. Like, I want to participate for sure, but I'm not gonna fucking wait around for someone to give me a show. I'm really not going to do that. If that's what I want to do for a living, if I don't want to email for a living, I'm not going to wait around for someone. Like, I'm going to come up with my own ideas. I'm going to put together my own team. I'm going to buy my own equipment on a credit card from B&H that that had zero interest and also a discount if you use their credit. I'm going to figure it out. And like, I think you have to want it. And I think that is the big, I think, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to make it generational, but like, I think that there's a lot of, there's just like a lot of people that don't want it so badly. Like they could
Yeah.
have
Well,
it. It would be a nice to have, but I'm like, I was talking about it in another interview where at one point I was like, I'm gonna be a comedian, or like I am a comedian. I just
yeah.
one day I decided that's it. I
Yep.
never had the moment where I said, where I would tell people I'm an aspiring comedian or I'm an up and coming comedian. I never had that day. I went from I'm an entrepreneur to I'm a comedian. And I made
Right.
the decision that day. I was gonna skip aspiring. I was gonna skip up and coming, and I was just gonna go. That's it. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I could fast forward to failed comedian if I didn't make it, which is fine.
Yeah.
But there was no like room for like it's a maybe for me.
Right.
You know?
Well, yeah. Look, I think that's kind of what I mean by the passivity. It's the passivity and anti-passivity, right? And you are anti-passive for sure. The passivity comes from the fact that in a modern communications media ecosystem, we are fed so much without doing anything that we fall into this state of passive consumption. And for better or for worse, millennials, first generation to experience that, have no
Right.
analog to it, and so consequently get tarred with that brush. I think that's fair. You're right. It's down to the person, but that's really the sort of media condition that typifies it. What I wonder about the show is to the extent to which you're going to continue to play with the trope of the talk show, right? Last stop with Kareem, Rahma, late night with Johnny Carson, and bring in juxtaposing elements to the conversation. Like you had boomer guests and you had a transgenerational
guest.
Transgenerational guest, and then you had the guy who made the initial complaint about taking rights away from boomers as they age. Is that the mode going forward, that juxtaposition kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, the whole idea of the show is that if you look at the comments on any Subway take, there are so many interesting viewpoints. I see the last stop being more akin to politically incorrect with Bill Maher.
Sure.
I have this episode where it was Marilyn Manson. I don't remember who else was on it, but I remember watching it as a kid. I was like, this is really a fucking cool, weird like thing to get like Marilyn Manson and this Bible lady and like a weird Christian radio announcer.
Well, and it's lost. Real time has really lost that weirdness. There's no more. It's not weird at all.
No.
Bill Maher.
Well, Bill Maher's lost the cool. Like he's not interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if he was ever interesting, but that juxtaposition brought interest to it. I think in a way
his concepts, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. So every episode, and I am kind of like I have to 100%. By accident, I said 100% agree in one episode or two episodes, or 100% disagree, and I was like, okay, this is part of the show now. That's oftentimes how my shows are built. Is like we have the main nugget,
Sure.
but no one's in the writers' room being like, okay, so after every take, you 100% disagree or 100% disagree. It was just the natural reaction, and now it's a part of the show. I'm more neutral, I'd say, but like I just have to give the people an answer because I think it's funny, because it's so stupid. It's so binary.
Yeah.
There's no way you can 100% agree or 100% disagree with these dumb fucking opinions. But I think the show, The Last Stop, gives people an opportunity, both the person who said the original take as well as experts, which I think is loosely used, right? Like Jerry
Right.
Saltz being a boomer expert simply because he's a
He's
boomer.
a boomer.
It
Yeah.
makes no sense. It's like it's not real, but so it's like it is real because they are real conversations and real discussions, but the people I've selected for every episode are not, they're not subject matter experts, or
Right.
every once in a while we will. Like there's an episode coming out about Taylor Swift, and John
I've heard of her.
Caramanica, the pop critic from the New York Times,
I've heard of him too.
he's in the room. He's given the take because there's two other people on the show that think that she's awful, and then there's one person that loves her, and I think that she's fine. That's where I stand. I don't think that she's the greatest lyricist of all time, which is what this person said. Mary, she said she's one of the greatest lyricists of all time. I 100% disagree with that, but I still think she's good. I think she's fine. Her music is fine. But I don't hate her. And John, I think, brings a really, an actual pop culture music writer perspective to the conversation. that I think, yeah, that's the show, and every episode, and they get dumber, right? Like, so the Boomers one was like kind of smart, Taylor Swift one's kind of smart, but we have an episode about whether or not Jack Harlow should be able to say the N-word, and we're talking about it for literally 40 minutes. The real answer, as we all know, is no. But having a discussion about it for 40 minutes, and the taping was an hour and a half because it was so funny.
Yeah.
And the experts is like, Daddy, black comedian expert because he's black.
Right.
Lucas Arnold, his grandmother is black, so he's 25% black.
Okay.
That makes him of us because he looks white. He's extremely an expert.
Well, yeah, I mean, right. I mean, and that gets so deep down into the one drop theory and all kinds of like racist nonsense from back in the day. Yeah.
I know, but it's like I think the show is, I call it the most sophisticated show about the stupidest subjects.
Right.
And that's what it is. It's like, it's entertaining, it's fun, you might learn something, but like at the end of the day, it's like it is a group chat gone live.
Yeah, I mean, which is a great way to characterize it. I really like that a lot. Like the group chat that explodes out of your phone into your living room type thing. Okay, so I wasn't aware, because I have read your press bonanza this week only lightly. Joking, I've read all of it. You're fucking everywhere, which gets to my incisive question in a second. But I didn't realize that you had already completed some semblance of a season. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we pitched the show to Recess, the beverage company, and I've had like a little bit of a relationship with them for a couple of years now. It's always been like small stuff where I'll be like, hey, I have this idea, like I need, some money or some product, and they've always been really supportive. And then I just didn't want to like do the whole sales. I didn't want to like pitch the show around, so I just went to the people that I like and that I thought that would like the show, and they were like, cool, let's do it. Here's the budget, and we built it. We built the show around the budget.
I mean, I can't tell you how much I love that. Just again, it gets back to being pragmatic, right? It's like, let's do what we can do, and then when we can do more or when we can't do as much, we scale accordingly.
Well, I would rather have 5 episodes of a show than 0 episodes of a show.
Okay, so season 1 5 episodes then?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, got it. And when will you know whether you can renew yourself?
I have no idea. I haven't planned that far.
Okay, got it. So, Recess, if you're listening, we need to know if we can renew ourselves.
Yeah, we need to know if we're renewing this season. Yeah. Okay. But my brain, dude, is firing off in a million different directions. Yes. So I don't even know. I really, there are so many things I want to explore with Subway Takes in particular that there might be something new again.
Right. Well, look, before you get to, I mean, clearly you're not grasping everything you do or don't know, because when we had this conversation, I made a comment about your press blitz, and you said, yeah, but this will be the first interview, and then Embedded dropped this morning. So clearly this is not the first interview. Now are you going to tell me it's the first video interview? Is that what's going on here? You're going to try to make me feel special in that way?
Yeah.
Okay. Fine. I feel incredibly special. Thank you, Kareem, for that.
No, and maybe I didn't really remember that I gave that interview. I think that might be it also.
Look, I mean, I think that's a really honest answer, which is like, when you get used to operating and creating in public, it is very easy to forget any one thing you said or whatever it is. And the fact that all of it gets memorialized is something you just have to sort of live with, right?
Getting a little scary though.
Tell me about that. Why?
I'm just starting to realize that, like, because I'm just me and I've always felt like an underdog and I've always felt like I'm not a important person.
Yeah.
And now I'm starting to realize that people are paying attention to what I'm saying. And I definitely want to be responsible with that. And also, like, I've never been an edgelord. I've never been like a cynical person. Like, I've always been optimistic. So like, I'm not worried about what I've said in the past at all. But now I'm like, with all these interviews, I'm like, oh, that's exactly the point. I'm like, there's more. There's just more of them, right? Like, maybe we used to give 1 interview a year, 2 interviews a year, 3 interviews a year, 4, and now it's 15 in a week. You're bound to say something you regret. even if it's not something offensive, right? Like, I'm bound to say, like, maybe my Trump joke that I made earlier that I worked for his campaign, like, that that one feels fine. That, like, it won't age well, but maybe there's
Yeah, I mean,
like, you know,
Don Jr. texted me and confirmed that wasn't the case. So just to be clear.
thank God. But yeah, it's like, it's not stressful, but I have said a lot of things,
Yeah.
and it's hard to keep track of what I've said. I don't
Yeah.
know. Sometimes I'm in a bad mood. Sometimes I'm in a great mood. Sometimes, like, I'm making things up and I'm joking. Sometimes I'm being serious, and that might get confusing with a joke. Like,
Sure.
I'm also, like, a kind of a zany person. You know, like,
I
I
hadn't
don't
noticed.
know. Sometimes I don't know where the joke ends and where the joke begins. I really don't. About myself, I'm like, am I doing this because I think it's funny, or am I doing this because I actually want to do this?
Right.
You know?
Right. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that's a good place to acknowledge that we've reached the promised half hour with this episode of Sick Talks.
Well, I feel bad. Do you want 10 more minutes?
I mean, I'll take as much time as you want to give me in your new upgraded studio there in Los Angeles.
I have to sit in this car. I can sit in this car for 10 more minutes.
All right. Well, okay. So
unless you really want it to be 30 minutes.
No, I like the creative conceit, and I also like breaking the creative conceit. So
you're also probably so, like, God, this guy always does this, doesn't he?
What, like, does what exactly?
Like, when I said I wasn't going to be on camera on that thing that we worked on, I was like, I'm not being on camera. I showed up prepared to not be on camera, and then I got there and I said, you know what? I'll be on camera.
Well, I mean, not for nothing, Kareem. It's like we know each other well enough that I go, if I create an enticing enough environment for Kareem, he'll hang out and enjoy it, right? That's what I'm trying to do for everybody. Always, it's like let's fuck around and have some fun, because us having fun can be productive and can lead to interesting things.
Fun is my number one priority. Fun is my priority.
And sadly, that is not the case for nearly enough people, because they don't believe that that's a vector that they can access, which I think is kind of crazy. All right, speaking of fun, I want to then draw us back to the list and one of the articles that I sent you. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but did you go inside Brooklyn's very own immersive clown cult?
I saw the article. I think I'm supportive.
Okay.
Keep Bushwick weird, man.
Keep Bushwick weird is exactly right. So this is a story, guys, in Hyperallergic, which is an excellent arts publication about Clown Cult, which is a clown cult, a bi-monthly immersive variety show dedicated to celebrating the art of clowning, who by a person who goes by the stage name Chucky Sleaze, and happens in Bushwick, as Kareem noted, and is keeping Bushwick weird one clown cult appearance at a time. Do you seeing stuff like this go, I gotta get out there and just get in the room and understand what that is? Or are you just like, you know what, I'm gonna let these guys clown and I'm gonna keep it moving?
Yeah, I'm more of a, I like when people do weird things. I'm happy that I know about it, and I'm grateful that it exists. This is what I say about many things. It's not for me.
Right.
That's what I say. It's not for me. And that's fine. I'm not even saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's not for me, which is as a real answer. I have no business being there. What am I going to do there? I don't want to laugh at them. I don't want to join them. I don't want to observe them. So there's no reason for me to be there.
You know what would be the most amazing thing is that, that quote, the beginning of that quote taken out of context and then like tweeted at Clown Cult and then having the clowns after you. Can you imagine?
Not again. Not again.
Now I see what's going on. Now it's not for you because we've had this nightmare already.
I don't want to talk about the clowns again, dude. This already happened. This already happened before.
Well, it's funny because one of the reasons that I sent it to you is there's a woman who comes to Breakfast Club from time to time who is very invested in clowning as a philosophical practice, like the idea of the sacred clown, which is like the court jester, which is like the outlier who can point a spotlight at the things that are wrong or disequilibrium, or the disequilibrium in our lives. Do you think about that at all, or are you just kind of commenting on things as they happen? Because I could sort of see it from either way. Like what you do seems intentional enough that it could be thought through in that way, and it seems improvisational enough that it doesn't have to be. So I wonder.
I kind of just chase a feeling, and I don't overthink things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't really ask myself, why do I find this funny, or why do I find this interesting? I kind of just accept the fact that I do. And then again, it's like I'm addicted to momentum, and I don't want to stop and think. Like, it's not like, one of my pieces of advice to people is shoot first, aim later. Like,
Right.
I think that overthinking will kill the momentum, and the
Right.
momentum, I think, is really hard to get, and it's also hard to keep, and it's also hard to get after it's gone. So like, if you have it, like, if I wake up and I'm on a roll, I'm on a fucking roll. There's
Right.
nothing I can't do. Like, if my
Right.
calendar is booked solid, I'm not stopping, you
Yeah.
know? But if I'm having a day where I don't feel that way, then I will cancel. You know what I mean? It's like, so
Yeah.
like,
Sure.
I do the feeling thing. I just allow my feelings. I don't overthink my feelings, and I pursue what I think is interesting in the moment, which is another mantra of mine. I sound like a freaking Tim Ferriss wannabe, but I have like a post-it on my wall that says, "Do what's right now,"
Yeah. I mean, look,
and that's kind of what I do.
but I, like the last stop on tour motivational speaking date into juxtapositional argument format could be a super format for
Maybe a
you.
great idea. See, this is an interesting development. Is like, does the guy that hosts Subway Takes, who's also coincidentally named Kareem, is he a character, or
Right.
is he just me? I don't know yet.
Right.
Right now, he's mostly me with a little bit of like hee hee ha ha sometimes.
Well, you're not wearing the suit, so I mean, at least you've been able to separate yourself
Physically,
in that way.
I am. So yeah, we'll see what's next. I don't know what's next. It is, if you're Andrew Kuo, you're getting texts from me at 3 a.m. that are like just a sentence that sounds insane, but then tomorrow it sounds brilliant.
Right.
And it's like,
Well, I mean, that could tie into mushrooms being America's favorite psychedelics, which is another story in the newsletter this week. But yeah, no, I get what you mean. I get what you mean, and I like the follow the feeling, and I like the fact that there is enough access and egalitarian sort of impulse in the platforms we have available to create that you can explore that.
I think you approach it in a different way, because your entire thing is about extrapolation, right? Like, you are looking
Yeah.
at things, you're looking at links, you're looking at what people are doing, and you're saying like, why is this interesting? Who is this interesting for? What is the
Yeah.
reason that they're doing this? You know, even asking me about the clowns, like, if I would have seen the clown thing, I would have gone, huh, cool. But you, something about the clown thing to you is like, there's something worth exploring, right?
Yeah.
Like, and for me, I go, that's cool. There was no feeling, it was neutral.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I think it's interesting that you're more of like an anthropologist, whereas I'm, I guess, like a Fitzcarraldo.
Okay. But by the way, I want to just bring something up to you and to the audience generally, which is that presently I am reading Herzog's memoir from 2002, whose name escapes me, but I was trying to read God Against All, the more recent memoir. What I realized was that the God Against All is available on Spotify Premium, free with your subscription, and so you can listen to Werner Herzog dictate his own.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is, well, it is cool until about 15 minutes in, when you're just like, oh my God, will it stop? And it becomes
not
this
like that. Fucking Kitchen Confidential. Now that is a good audiobook.
Really? Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I
dude,
haven't.
Bourdain reading, and it was great. It's
All right.
probably my only audiobook I've liked.
I've got to dig that one up. Marcella and I took a trip to, we sort of replicated Bourdain's Baja California trip and went and had an amazing time. And but that's the only time. I'm not a Bourdain guy. I've never really engaged with him. I understand why people like him, but it feels like the audiobook would be a good way to do that. Herzog's audiobook is a good way to ask yourself, what is the limit of interest and how quickly can I reach it? because on the one hand, everything he says is fascinating. And on the other hand, after, like I said, 15 minutes, you're just like, wow, I feel violated. It's there's something uncanny about it.
That's a great non-cosine. So I won't listen to it.
No, okay. I mean, look, it's just it's a question of what you want to extrapolate, the meaning you want to extrapolate from it.
One less thing to do.
Exactly. Well, this is what we need. All right. Well, listen, speaking of one less thing to do, you gave me the extra 10 minutes as promised. I will let you go. But Kareem, it's been a pleasure to talk to you as always. Thanks for making the trip. And I'm so stoked to see the way the rest of the season of Last Stop rolls out. And let me know when you auto renew for season 2 so that we can,
What's your take?
Okay. Obviously, you're prolonging the session.
I'm only going to 100%. I'm going to 100% disagree or 100% agree, and then we're done.
Readers of my newsletter, I mean, this requires a little bit of setup, so just bear with me. Readers of my newsletter know that on February 13th, 2024, I unsubscribed to the New York Magazine Vulture email. And I have unsubscribed every single send since then. And they will not take me off the list. My take is, I am the most important media consumer in New York.
100% agree.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we wrap Sick Talks number 78.
Let's go.
Great to talk to you, and we will talk again soon.
All right,
bye.
We'll talk to you soon.